The Global Business Summit was held recently in the national capital to celebrate the present and anticipate the future. Since its inception in 2015, the Global Business Summit has emerged as Asia's premier meeting place where global thought leaders and experts congregate to discuss ideas and actions for the future. It is an unparalleled gathering where we not only reflect on the past and present, but also anticipate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead in the ever-evolving global business landscape. The gala event was graced by the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. During his address from the podium of ET Now GBS, PM Modi proudly announced that the world has now reposed its trust in India and this is India's time.
एक समय ऐसा आता है जब सारी परिस्थितियां उसके फेवर में होती हैं, जब वो देश अपने आप को आने वाली कई सदियों के लिए मजबूत बना लेता है। मैं भारत के लिए आज वही समय देख रहा हूं। और जब मैं 1000 साल की बात करता हूं तो बहुत ही समझदारी पूर्वक करता हूं। ये ठीक है कि किसी ने 1000 शब्द कभी सुना नहीं, 1000 दिन का नहीं सुना तो उसके लिए तो 1000 साल बहुत बड़ी लगती है, लेकिन कुछ लोग होते हैं जो देख पाते हैं। ये टाइम पीरियड, ये कालखंड वाकई अभूतपूर्व है।
A flagship initiative by the Times Group, the ET Now Global Business Summit has been a pivotal platform for world leaders, stalwarts from business corridors, as well as the bigwigs of the political arena. The 8th edition of ET Now Global Business Summit was also graced by the presence of the Union Home Minister and Minister of Cooperation, Government of India, Shri Amit Shah. Here are some takeaways from an exclusive session, Imagine India Unlimited.
आने वाले 5 साल महान भारत की नींव डालने के 5 साल होंगे, इसका मुझे पूरा विश्वास है। देश को बहुत सारे संकट से मोदी जी के विजनरी नेतृत्व ने बाहर निकाला है, देश को सुरक्षित किया है, देश को समृद्धि के रास्ते पर ले गए हैं। हमारी शिक्षा नीति को भारतीय मूल्यों के आधार पर बनाए हैं, हमारे न्याय को हमने भारतीय मूल्यों के आधार पर परिवर्तन करने की शुरुआत की है। 80 करोड़ गरीबों के जीवन में उजाला और आशा दोनों बनने का काम नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने किया है। नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने इस देश की ऐतिहासिक, सांस्कृतिक और धार्मिक चेतना को जागरूक करने का काम किया है और पूरा देश आज एक मुश्त होकर दुनिया में आगे बढ़ने के लिए संकल्पित है। आज़ादी के अमृत महोत्सव के वर्ष में मोदी जी ने जो विकसित भारत का लक्ष्य देश के सामने रखा है, मुझे विश्वास है आने वाली पीढ़ी भी इस रास्ते पे जाएगी, देश भी इस रास्ते पे जाएगा और मोदी जी का ये संकल्प निश्चित रूप से समय से पहले पूरा होगा, इसका मुझे विश्वास है। धन्यवाद।
What followed was a fascinating panel discussion with Sudipta Roy, MD and CEO L&T Finance Holdings, moderated by Vivek Belgavi, partner and India fintech leader of PwC India, on the quantum jump to a $5 trillion industry. Here are some highlights from the talk, as well as comments from other speakers on their contributions to India's thriving economy.
I think the first major trend that we are seeing is that in India we are transitioning from a data poor to a data dense economy. Now that's a very fundamental and a phase shift transition, primarily because in lending we have to ascertain two things. First is ability to pay and willingness to pay, and obviously to do that you require lots of data. Thanks to the sort of proliferation of digital public infrastructure in India, primarily, Aadhaar, which is like, and primarily driven by the India stack. And the India stack remains like, I think probably it's about 85% complete right now. But even in its completion of 85% completion, we are seeing the enormous benefits that are coming in. The underwriting which was possible a couple of years back, 5 years back, right now, it's in a different scale. Previously, 5 years back, KYC meant physical. now KYC, whether it's biometric KYC using a dongle or whether it's video KYC, it is completely digital. And there are very few places in the world where actually, you do that level of KYC so seamlessly. So I think data poor to data dense and push by the digital public infrastructure is one major trend. I think the one major trend which has happened is the availability of data, or the data availability with the common person, primarily because of the massive push on 4G, 5G as well as affordable handsets. That actually has democratized data access to even very low layers. In fact, we L&T Finance are one of the largest rural lenders in India. And frankly, when I move around in villages, I see that the penetration of smartphones and that would be great news for Google Pay actually, penetration of smartphones in the country is increasing by leaps and bounds. And when you go to a place 6 months later, you find that more women have smartphones than what you saw them having about 6 months earlier. So, and because data is really cheap, that is also one major secular trend that is actually pushing sort of finance and lending in the country. And last but, not the least is that not only lenders have a massive push towards digitization, but computing power is also increasing. The fact is that the cost of computing, because of the enormous deployment of cloud infrastructure, is going down. You can really do heavy duty calculations and heavy duty data massaging and and data interpretation at a fraction of the cost what it was previously possible. So I think all these secular trends actually in terms of DPI, data poor to data dense, availability of mobile computing power and handsets in the hands of the common people, and last but not the least, the massive digitization push by the lenders at a much lower cost base with more computing power. I think they're the four main secular trends that are powering, our data transfer, our lending industry transformation.
When we think of innovation, what we think and how we think, at the heart of it is our users. A lot of what Sudipto spoke and what we're seeing on digital payment infrastructure in the digital public infrastructure, the change that's happened, and I think the big innovation that the country is seeing, is that such cash earnings today are getting digitized, are getting recorded in bank statements, and therefore lenders have access to this data to be able to give credit to users and possibly at lower rates.
In terms of the number of e-commerce shoppers in India, they're close to around 200 million or 20 crore shoppers. A large component of this is in the middle to low income segment and largely residing in the tier 2 and smaller cities, the Mufassil towns of India. Therefore, as this audience comes in on to shop online, there's going to be large amount of opportunities. We have decided we don't want to be in high burn categories like mobiles and consumer electronics, large electronics. So we are in the play of value lifestyle segment. So that's our reason.
While MasterCard as a technology company, all of you are aware of, but the different consulting, analytics, and many other products with which we can really have our customers, which are businesses in most cases, but then eventually their customers also spend on many different industries and related parts, right? It is not about mass marketing. It's about at a pace which is real time, and the relevancy which is most will only have our customers on our books.
Probably the other aspect of being data dense, the other aspect of the public digital infrastructure, the other aspect of the ease of use, other aspect of e-commerce getting into it, giving a channel and data, etc., is that there's a risk of it being commoditized. Is this true? Is it getting commoditized? And if it is not true, then what could be the USPs which can be built in for the differentiated experience?
At the end of the day, when you talk about lending, it's about giving money, right? So at the end of the day, giving money is the simplest thing. As we move forward, there are two axes of sort of reinventing some of our products that we have. Now, there are products which are like mainstream products. Like, for example, let's look at the products across life cycle or the financial services life cycle. Cards, very differentiated, right? Cards are still sold on rational as well as on an emotional quotient. And when we sort of map products, we see what are the rational decision making that the customer is making and what are the emotional drivers of his decision making. Right? You look at it in this matrix, right? So cards is like somewhat, the more you go, for example, mortgage, or you look at personal loans, or you look at auto loans, The other part is like completely not taken into account, and it's like completely in the sphere of like the rational decision making. I think one of the challenges as lenders and I would call as financial institutions is that how to move from that one axis product communication / product structuring to a two axis product structuring. And in fact, in our organization, we have taken the call that, when we sort of come out with sort of new product launches or relaunches of our existing products, we will not only focus on one segment, but we'll focus on the other segment. Because, and the regulator is also saying that, customer protection, customer service, making sure that you're transparent to the customer, right, in terms of whatever you do is as equally important as the pricing or, the rational parts of the process that you're giving. So for the lenders, obviously, it is about like taking a fresh look at the products and trying to see if you can differentiate the products on both the axes. So that's on the broad horizon. The other part is horses for courses, what I call horses for courses. For example, recently I was in Gujarat and I was in a village. And I asked the guy, and this is my habit, whenever I go to villages, what I try to do is that I take their account statements and try to see how dense their account statements is becoming, right? So I took this account statement from this gentleman. He was looking at a tractor loan from us. And I could see the density of the transactions that he had 3 years back. The density of the transactions that he has now is probably 3 to 4 times, right? And again, there was a peculiar narration, saying that, and it is a continuous narration that is coming, someone is sending money to him digitally. So then I asked him, what is this? So he said that, no, I have cows, so I submit bill to GCMMF, Amul, right? And they transfer money digitally to me. Right, so I said, this is fully digital, there's no cash. No, this is fully digital. I have an ID. They take the milk and then they transfer the money. It takes about 1 day to come, but it's centralized. Then when I went to RBI, about a couple of weeks later, RBI said that, RBI has a new platform. Not many people know about it. They call it PPFC, Public Platform for Frictionless Credit, which is under the RBI's innovation cell. And they're doing a lot of good work there. What they have done is that together with GCMMF, they have digitized this entire data. So basically now when you go to a milk farmer, animal husbandry, whose main business in Gujarat, you actually are able to digitally pull all the records, right? And able to do income estimation and actually give loans to those customers, right, with a far degree of confidence than you would be able to do previously. And I think this is an example of where, on one hand, as I said, on the macro side, the lenders need to look at how they sort of position their products, but also on the micro side, how every individual line, and I talked about being data dense, right? Data rich from data dense. This is an example of being data rich from data dense. Mortgage industry, the front end has been digitized, customer eligibility has been digitized, the bottom layer still very fragmented. So I think these are the different areas that as an industry we need to work on, right? Either on a silo basis on an industry as well as on an umbrella basis on the overall product proposition.
Helpful.
While we heard everyone's thoughts on the booming Indian economy in an exclusive interview with Times Network, Sudipta Roy, MD and CEO L&T Finance Holdings, spoke at length about the market patterns and indicators that he has seen that will support the Honorable Prime Minister Modi's goal of creating a $5 trillion economy. This is all you need to know about the conversation.
We're here on day 2 of the Global Business Summit 2024, and I'm in conversation with Sudipta Roy, Managing Director and CEO of L&T Finance Holding. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Pooja, for having me.
So by way of some context setting, my understanding is that the organization has now extended its SME financing to over 50 localities nationwide. How does this fit into the larger Lakshya 2026 initiative that the company is championing?
Yeah, so as we have gone ahead and told the markets that as part of the Lakshya 2026 set of goals that the organization has, will drive retailization in the organization upwards of 80%. But if you see our current results, we're already at 90%, so right. 91% actually. And the fact is that SME forms a large business line for us. It's a new business line, but we intend to build it. And if you look at our sort of products. Our products are targeted at the small and medium enterprises as well as in the rural areas, also in the micro enterprise as well. So in terms of our growth rates in SME, the growth rates have been very, very healthy. And to push the needle on this particular very important emerging line of business, previously we are doing in a smaller number of cities. Now we have expanded to about 50 cities all across the country. And we are actually bringing in a lot of products. For example, we have unsecured business loans, which is one of the sort of mainstay of the SME, but we have a lot of OD products which we are bringing to the SMEs. And over the next couple of sort of quarters, you will see us bringing different variants of these products, maybe in the lines of supply chain financing or maybe some focus financing. But in addition to that, most of our lines of business, other lines of business in which we are very strong, especially our rural financing business, we call it rural business finance, where we are present in actually 1,700 locations. Our branches are 1,700 branches all across the country. That is also another line of business which will see strong expansion, as well as our consumer retail businesses also see a strong expansion across all the locations.
So we certainly look forward to that. And as we were reviewing the initiative, the Lakshya 2026 vision, fintech at scale did come up on more than one occasion, and it seems to be a particularly innovative approach. Tell us more.
So I think you have to understand that traditionally when financial services organizations have been run, here or globally, right, technology was seen as an enabler, but technology was never seen as a differentiator, or technology was never seen as driving the organization forward.
Sure.
But if you see in India, which is such a vibrant fintech ecosystem right now, there are traditional lenders, there are NBFCs in between, and there are the new age fintechs which are digitizing many of the solutions on the periphery. We being an established lender and with great parentage, one of the underpinnings of our, again, the Lakshya 2026 strategy is that we want to sort of make sure that the front end of the organization that sort of acquires customers, services customers, or deals with customers, either internal customers within the organization or external customers who are actually our customers, right? The level of digitization goes to a sort of such an extent that it becomes almost frictionless, which adds to efficiency both internally in terms of cost as well as in terms of operations, and for the customer also in terms of experience as well as the ease of use of our products. To that extent, we have been digitizing most of our products. We have moved to one major unified platform. All our products are moving to one single platform. Our entire tech architecture is now on the cloud. All our data warehouse, everything has been deployed to cloud to make sure that we are able to access the data and use the data much faster.
Right.
If you see our Planet app, for example, it's our D2C app that has upwards of 7 million downloads, a very healthy monthly and daily active users. So overall, from the customer front end, from our D2C app side, from the digitization of our inner platforms or the platforms inside, from the customer interfaces, we are actually transforming the entire organization into a fintech ethos. That means the front end of the organization is technology driven and supported by the stability and the control structure of our established financial services organization. That's why we call it fintech at scale.
Well, sir, speaking of transformations, what do you consider to be some of the most breakthrough trends that are revolutionizing the lending space? And amongst them, have any of them perhaps taken you by surprise?
See, I think India is making, especially in the lending space, India is making the transition from a data poor economy to a data dense economy. Because, in lending, we look at two things. First we look at the customer's ability to pay and the customer's willingness to pay. These are the two metrics on which we underwrite customers. I think the thing which has, it was expected, but the thing which has taken most of the financial industry by probably a bit of surprise is the rapid pace at which digital public infrastructure in India, the DPI as it is called, scaled.
Right.
UPI was launched around 2016, but we never expected UPI to have such a scale and such a sort of hockey stick growth, right? And actually to a certain extent driven by COVID, where COVID actually pushed the needle on digitization.
Right.
The second thing is that the other things which have come in, for example, account aggregator framework which has come in. World over, the experiment on open banking. There are a lot of noise on open banking. UK rolled out open banking, Australia rolled out open banking. Frankly, the the structurally ground up building of open banking through the account aggregator framework that we are seeing in the country, right? I think it's without parallel in the world. So the thing which actually is helping all the lenders is that the DPIs are actually funneling our data into us, which is easing our decision making process, which is, for example, the KYC layer, for example, between Aadhaar and video KYC. Doing KYC is fully digitized and a breeze these days.
Right.
So all this are actually adding together to sort of build maybe what I call a tsunami of efficiency for all the lenders, as well as ease of use for all the users on the other hand.
And speaking of looking forward, there's constant conversation around this $5 trillion figure.
Correct.
All right. And I'd love your take on the role that you believe credit will play in fueling us and getting us one step closer to touching that number.
Yeah, I think, three parts to this. I think, the economy, if it has to grow to a $5 trillion economy, I think the three sectors of the economy, which is the agriculture sector or the farm sector, the manufacturing sector and the services sector, all have to grow equally. Now, if you see credit flow to many of the sectors or the credit offtake in many of the sectors have been anemic. On the other hand, we have had a very strong, robust personal credit consumption in the country. But I do believe that the farm sector, right, which is sort of exposed to the vagaries of nature in terms of rainfall, etc. And we have seen acts of God. We have seen the El Nino sort of play out this year. The water table actually has dropped in many parts of the country. I think what we need is a strong credit flow to the farm sector, which, like NBFCs like us, right, provide, we are a very large rural lender, both in the tractor space, allied agri space, as well as in the microfinance, as well as the rural business finance space. And so, credit especially is playing a big role in sort of pushing the needle upwards on standard of living, as well as utilization of economic resources in the farm sector. I travel quite a lot in the rural areas, and frankly, it's a revelation to see that, many parts of the country, women are actually stepping up, right? And fueled by credit, and credit is easily available. Previously, you could go to money lenders at usurious interest rates. Now, at least you get credit at reasonable interest rates. So, credit flow to the farm sector is very, very important. I think the manufacturing sector is seeing a very great sort of first signs of revival driven by the PLI efforts of the government.
Right.
I do believe that we might be seeing the start of a very strong CapEx cycle, especially on private investment, especially in some of the sunrise sectors. For example, semiconductor is an area which the government has been pushing quite a lot. Green hydrogen is an area which the government has been pushing quite a lot. So in energy sectors, manufacturing sectors, I think we are seeing the start of a strong CapEx cycle in some of the sunrise areas. And last but not the least, services have been strong in India traditionally. I think services is now moving in India from sort of base commoditized service to more value-added services, right? And that actually increases margin and actually encourages capital formation. I think the government has been very instrumental in sort of making sure that we have a benign environment, especially on terms of inflation, etc. We've been given what has been going on in the world in the external environment. I think we have a very benign economic environment in the country, which is very conducive to the growth for the next couple of years.
Right.
As credit flow by our organizations like us, or credit flow by the bank and the financial services industry in a whole grows to the economy, and the fintechs in the margin actually simplify and take away some of the friction which has been there in sort of administering the process of credit. I do believe the credit flow through all these three sectors, farm, manufacturing, as well as services, will keep on increasing, and when credit flows, finally the economy lifts up. So I think we are on a good track to get to that $5 trillion economy, and I think we will get there sooner than later.
Well, Sudipta, your optimism is very heartening to hear. We certainly look forward to that and wish you and the larger L&T Finance Holding team all the very best for what lies ahead.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you.
A flagship initiative by the Times Group, the ET Now Global Business Summit has been a pivotal platform for world leaders, stalwarts from business corridors, as well as the bigwigs of the political arena.